The transport shuttle's metal floor vibrated beneath Vera Blackwood's bare feet. Oh. She stood in the cargo hold, wrapped in ceremonial silks that the Korvathi insisted their gifts wear. The fabric was beautiful but impractical, designed more for display than warmth against the cold, recycled air of the ship. She'd been traveling for 3 days, passed from one handler to another like a package, each one careful not to damage the merchandise. She wasn't supposed to be here. 2 weeks ago, she had been working as a xenobiology researcher on Luna Station, studying microbial life from the outer systems. Then the message came. The Korvathi Empire demanded a tribute to seal their new trade agreement with Earth's colonial union. They wanted someone of value, someone whose loss would be felt. Her father, Senator Blackwood, had enemies in the council. Those enemies made sure his daughter's name appeared on the selection list. The shuttle docked with a hollow clang. Through the porthole, she could see the rotating habitat ring of Station 7, a human military outpost on the edge of contested space. This wasn't right. She was supposed to be delivered to Ambassador Theron's diplomatic vessel, not a military installation. The cargo door hissed open. A man stood silhouetted against the bright corridor lights. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of stillness that suggested either complete calm or coiled readiness. His uniform bore captain's insignia, but it was worn and patched in, places practical rather than ceremonial. He looked at the manifest pad in his hand, then at her, then back at the pad. His expression shifted from confusion to something harder. "You're not machine parts," he said. "Obviously not," Vera replied, lifting her chin. She refused to look ashamed, refused to act like cargo, even if that's what she had become. The captain stepped into the hold, and she could see him better now. He had dark hair cut short, military regulation, and eyes the color of storm clouds. A scar ran along his left jaw, old, but still visible. He moved with the economical grace of someone who had learned not to waste energy. "Delivery confirmation. Says this is for Captain Marcus Reed, Station 7, that's me. But I didn't order." Paused, reading further down the manifest. His jaw tightened. "You're listed as a diplomatic package, bound for Ambassador Theron." "There's been a mistake," Vera said. "Need to be transferred to the Korvathi vessel immediately." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. She could see him. Processing, calculating. "You're the tribute," he said. "What's in a question?" "I prefer cultural liaison," she said, though the words tasted bitter. "They dressed you like that? Made you stand in a cargo hold?" His voice had an edge now, controlled, but sharp. It's tradition. Their tradition. Marcus set down the manifest pad and pulled off his jacket. Before she could protest, he draped it around her shoulders. It was warm and smelled of coffee and metal polish. "Tradition can go to hell," he said quietly. The jacket was huge on her, but she pulled it tighter anyway. For the first time since leaving Earth, she felt like a person instead of an object. "You need to send me to them," she said, though something in her chest tightened at the thought. "If you don't, there will be consequences." "There always are," Marcus said. He turned to the shuttle pilot who had been watching from the cockpit door. "You can go. But the delivery has been received. I'll handle the rest." The pilot shrugged and headed back to his cockpit. Within minutes, the shuttle had detached and disappeared into the black. Marcus led her through the station's corridors. They passed other personnel, but no one questioned a captain escorting someone through the halls. She noticed how he positioned himself slightly ahead and to her right, keeping himself between her and anyone they passed. It was subtle, protective. Without being obvious, his quarters were simple but clean. It's military efficient, with everything in its place. He gestured to a chair and she sat, still wrapped in his jacket. "Why?" she asked. "Why not just send me where I'm supposed to go?" Marcus poured 2 cups of coffee from a thermal pot, handed her one. "Because I've seen what the Korvathi do with their cultural liaisons. They parade them around at diplomatic functions. Use them as symbols of human submission. They break them. And you care because I've seen enough people broken?" He sat across from her, his gray eyes steady. "And because someone in the colonial union thought it was acceptable to trade a person for a trade route, No, that's not the humanity I fought for. You were in the war? 3 tours on the Corvathi border. I know exactly what Ambassador Theron is capable of. He took a sip of coffee. Which is why you're not going anywhere near him. The alarm came at dawn, or what passed for dawn on a space station. Marcus was already awake, had been for hours, sitting at his desk reviewing defensive protocols. Vera stirred on the couch, where she had insisted on sleeping, despite his offer. Of the bed. Captain Reed, his communications officer's voice crackled through the intercom. We have a Corvathi diplomatic vessel requesting docking permission. They claim they're here for a missing delivery. Marcus had expected them sooner. 3 days since Vera's arrival was actually longer than he'd anticipated. Tell them docking is denied pending security review. Standard procedure. Sir, Ambassador Theron himself is demanding to speak with you. Then patch him through to my quarters. Video off on our end? The wall screen flickered to life, revealing the elongated features of a Corvathi noble. Theron's skin had the characteristic blue-gray tint of his species, and his 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of irritation among his people. Captain Reed, Theron's voice was silk over steel. You have something that belongs to me. I have a human citizen on my station, Marcus replied calmly. No one here belongs to anyone. The female was payment for our trade agreement. She was selected, prepared, and delivered. A clerical error does not void the contract. Vera had moved to stand beside Marcus, though out of the camera's range, her hands clenched into fists at being discussed like property. What I have, Marcus said, is a human citizen who was apparently kidnapped and trafficked. That's a violation of colonial union law, regardless of what papers you have. Theron's upper eyes narrowed, while the lower ones widened, at expression of dangerous amusement. You're a soldier, Captain, not a diplomat. You don't understand the complexities. I understand enough. I understand what happened to the last 3 cultural liaisons you received. 1 died of unexplained illness. 1 threw herself from a balcony. The 3rd hasn't been seen in 2 years. Did fortunate accidents and personal choices. Humans are so fragile, so emotional. Marcus felt Vera's hand touch his shoulder, a warning to stay calm. He took a breath. Request denied, Ambassador. If you want to pursue this, file a formal complaint with the Colonial Union. You're making a grave mistake, Captain. I have friends in your government. Your career will be over. You'll be court-martialed for interfering with diplomatic relations. Maybe, Marcus said. But she stays here. We cut the transmission. The screen went dark, reflecting their faces back at them. Vera's hand was still on his shoulder. You just declared war on your own career, she said softly. I've had 3 careers already. Military security, now station management. I can find a 4th. He turned to look at her. The question is what you want to do. I can't keep them docked forever, and Theron's right about having influence. Vera moved around the chair to face him properly. 3 days in his quarters had changed her. She wore his spare work clothes, had pulled her hair back in a practical knot. The ceremonial silks were folded in a corner, untouched since that first night. My father won't help, she said. He'll say I need to honor the agreement for the good of humanity. The greater good and all that. Forget your father, what do you want? She was quiet for a moment, considering. I want to make them pay. For thinking they could trade me, I want to show them humans aren't commodities. She met his eyes. I want to fight. Marcus stood, moved to a wall panel she hadn't noticed before. He pressed his hand against it, and it slid aside, revealing a small weapons locker. Inside were 2 pulse rifles, several sidearms, and military-grade armor. I kept these from my service days. It's technically illegal, but station captains have some leeway. He pulled out a compact pistol, checked its charge, and handed it to her. Ever fire one of these? I'm a xenobiologist. I've done field work on hostile planets. That's a yes, then. He pulled out tactical gear, started checking it over. Theron won't wait long. He'll try to take you by force if he has to. Says it's about honor, but really it's about power. If one human can refuse them, others might too. So we run? No, Marcus said, surprising her. We make a stand, but first we need allies. He moved to his communication console, started typing commands. I still have friends from the war. People who remember what the Corvathi did to our colonies. Before the peace treaty, They won't all help, but some will. Names started appearing on the screen. Lieutenant Torres from the 5th Fleet, Commander Nash from Intelligence, Sergeant Kim from Special Operations. As he sent encrypted messages to each, Vera watched the list grow. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Really? You don't know me?" "I'm nobody special." Marcus paused in his typing, turned to her. "You're wrong. You're someone who was betrayed by her own people and still stands tall. You're someone who could have accepted her fate but chose to fight. Makes you exactly the kind of special humanity needs." The station's lights flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in a second later, bathing everything in red. Marcus was already moving, grabbing the gear he'd prepared. "They're jamming our main power grid." "Theron's done waiting." Vera pulled. On the tactical vest he'd given her, fingers steady, despite her racing heart. 3 days of preparation had led to this. "How many?" Sensors showed 12 Corvathi hunters. Professional retrieval team. Marcus checked his rifle's charge. "They'll come through the maintenance shafts, avoid the main corridors where security can track them." An explosion echoed from somewhere below. The station shuddered. "That's the cargo bay," Marcus said. "It's making multiple entry points." "Smart." He handed her a communication earpiece. "Channel 7 is secure. If we get separated, we won't," Vera interrupted. He almost smiled. "Stay close. Move when I move. Shoot if you have to. But our goal is the shuttle bay. I have a ship there." Off the books, they slipped into the corridor. The emergency lights created pools of shadow between patches of red. Other station personnel were moving to emergency stations following drill protocols. None of them knew this was about her. Captain Lieutenant Torres's voice crackled through his earpiece. "I've got movement in sections 4 and 7. There!" Using some kind of scrambler, our internal sensors can't get a clear lock. "Copy that. We're moving to Shuttle Bay 3. Negative, sir. I'm reading Corvathi signatures converging on that location. They anticipated you." Stopped pulling. Vera into an alcove. "Then we go to Plan B." "What's Plan B?" Vera whispered. "You make one up." A figure appeared at the end of the corridor. It's tall, graceful, moving with the predatory fluidity of a Corvathi hunter. It spotted them, raised its weapon. Marcus shoved Vera behind him and fired. The pulse blast caught the hunter's center mass, sending it tumbling backward. But where there was one. "Move." He grabbed her hand, pulling her down a side corridor. Footsteps echoed behind them, multiple sets, gaining ground. They turned a corner and nearly collided with another hunter. Vera reacted on instinct, bringing her pistol up and firing. The shot went wide but forced the hunter to dodge, giving Marcus time to finish it with a precise burst. "Nice reflexes," he said. "Fieldwork," she reminded him, though her hands were shaking now. They kept moving, using Marcus's knowledge of the station's layout to stay ahead. But the hunters were coordinated, systematically cutting off their options. They were being herded. "Captain, read." A new voice came through the station's communication system. "Ambassador Theron. This is unnecessary. Return what was promised, and no one else needs to be hurt." Marcus found an access panel, yanked it open. "In here." They crawled into the maintenance tunnel, barely wide enough for Marcus's shoulders. Behind them, they could hear the hunters reaching the panel. "They'll follow," Vera said. "Counting on." Marcus pulled a small device from his belt, attached it to the tunnel wall. Proximity charge. Non-lethal, but it'll slow them down. They emerged 3 levels down in the station's industrial sector. The air was thick with coolant fumes, and the hum of machinery. Marcus led them between massive processing units, using the noise to mask their movement. There he pointed to a maintenance shuttle, old and battered. "Not pretty, but she'll run." They were 20 meters away when the hunters appeared, surrounding the shuttle. 6 of them, weapons raised. "Trap," Vera said. Marcus counted. Their options found them lacking. "When I tell you to run, no." Vera stepped out from behind cover, hands raised. "I'll go with you." The hunter's weapon swiveled to her. Marcus started to move, but she shot him a look that stopped him. "I'm the one you want," she said to the hunters. "Let him go, and I'll come quietly." The lead hunter tilted its head, considering, spoke into its communicator in rapid Corvathi. After a moment, it gestured for her to approach. Vera took 3 steps forward, then dove sideways as Marcus opened fire. She rolled behind a processing unit as pulse blasts filled the air where she'd been standing. The hunters scattered, seeking cover. So much for quietly, Marcus said, pulling her deeper into the machinery. Did you really think I'd give up? For a second there? Yeah? She grinned, fear and adrenaline making her feel wild. Then you don't know me very well. An explosion rocked the station. From their fight, something bigger. The lights flickered. Again, and when they came back, they were standard white, not emergency red. Captain Torres's voice came through, urgent. You've got incoming, not Corvathi. 3 ships, military configuration. They're broadcasting Colonial Union override codes. Marcus and Vera exchanged glances. Friends of yours? She asked. Maybe. He switched channels on his communicator. This is Captain Reed. Identify yourself. Hello, Marcus. The voice was familiar, warm despite the circumstances. Commander. Nash here. Heard you might need some backup. Through the processing facility's windows, they could see ships moving outside. Human ships, weapons powered and locked onto the Corvathi vessel. The human ships held position outside Station 7, their weapons trained on Ambassador Theron's vessel. In the conference room, Commander Nash sat across from Marcus and Vera, her weathered face showing both amusement and concern. You've stirred up one hell of a hornet's nest, Nash said, sliding a data pad across the table. This goes deeper than just one trade agreement. Vera picked up the pad, started reading. Her face paled. This can't be right. What is? Marcus leaned over to look. My selection wasn't random. It wasn't my father's enemies. Vera's voice was hollow. My father signed the order himself. The document on the pad showed Senator Blackwood's personal authorization. Along with a hefty credit transfer to his private accounts, he'd sold his own daughter. Nash nodded grimly. We've been investigating corruption in the Colonial Union for months. Your father's been taking Corvathi bribes for 3 years, influencing policy decisions. When they demanded a tribute, he offered you to keep them from exposing him. Vera set the pad down carefully, her movements too controlled. Marcus could see her processing, compartmentalizing the betrayal. There's more, Nash continued. The Corvathi have been doing this across human space, not just taking people as tribute, but using them to gather intelligence. The cultural liaisons are implanted with neural monitors. Everything they see and hear gets transmitted back. The one who jumped from the balcony, Marcus said, understanding dawning. She figured it out. Probably. The Corvathi call it a cultural exchange enhancement. They learn our weaknesses, our defense protocols, our political structures, all through the eyes of unwilling spies. Vera stood abruptly, walked to the window. Outside, the standoff continued. So I was meant to be their eyes in their embassy. Watch their rivals, report on human visitors. You were meant to be more than that, Nash said. Your xenobiology expertise, your clearance levels from Luna Station. You had access to research? On biological weapons defense. Information the Corvathi very much want. The room fell silent. Marcus watched Vera's reflection in the window, saw the moment she made a decision. Then we use that, she said, turning back to them. They want me because of what I know. Fine. We make them think they're getting exactly what they want. Vera. Marcus started, but she held up a hand. Commander Nash, I assume you have a way to detect and disable their neural monitors. Nash smiled slowly. We recovered one from a previous victim. Our tech division has been working on countermeasures. Can't remove it safely, but we can feed it false information. Then here's what we do. Vera moved back to the table, suddenly animated. I go to them, let them implant me. You feed them false intelligence through the monitor, things that seem valuable but lead nowhere. Meanwhile, I gather intelligence on their operation from the inside. That's insane, Marcus said. You'd be in constant danger. I'm already in danger. At least this way, we turn it to our advantage. She looked at Nash. How long would you need to set up the countermeasures? 12 hours? Minimum. But Captain Reed is right. This is extremely risky. Everything worth doing is... At Vera met Marcus's eyes. You taught me that. Standing up to them, refusing to be traded. That was risky too. Marcus stood, paced to the window. 3 days ago, she'd been delivered to him in ceremonial silks, looking like a sacrifice. She stood in military fatigues, planning a counterintelligence operation. If we do this, he said slowly, we do it right. Full support team, extraction protocols. The moment something goes wrong, we pull you out. Agreed, Nash said. I can have a team in place within 6 hours. We'll need to make it look convincing, though. Vera has to seem defeated, like she's given up. The hunters, Vera said. The ones still on the station? We let them capture me. It looked like I tried to escape and failed. Nash stood. I'll coordinate with my team. Captain, can you sell the performance? Act like you tried to protect her and failed. Marcus looked at Vera. Yeah, I can sell it. After Nash left, they stood alone in the conference room. The weight of what they were planning settled between them. You don't have to do this, Marcus said. We can find another way. No, we can't. Vera moved closer to him. The Corvathi will keep taking people, keep treating humans like property. Why does this stop them? Why does it have to be you? Because I'm already in play. Because I have the knowledge they want. And because... She paused, then continued softly. Because I need to prove that my father's betrayal doesn't define me. That I'm more than just a commodity to be traded.
Out.
Marcus reached out, touched her face gently. It was the first time he'd allowed himself such a gesture. You've already proved that. She leaned into his touch for a moment, then stepped back. Help me sell this. When they take me, you have to look devastated. Like you've lost something precious. That won't be acting, he said quietly. The neural monitor sat at the base of Vera's skull like a cold spider. 3 weeks had passed since the Corvathi had captured her, and every day she fed them false information while gathering intelligence of her own. Marcus's performance had been perfect, his rage and despair entirely convincing as the hunters dragged her away. Now in Ambassador Theron's private ship, she played her role of broken tribute while her mind catalogued everything. The Corvathi had 17 other humans in similar positions across their space. They were planning something bigger than espionage. Oh, you're adapting well, Theron said, his 4 eyes studying her. Much better than the previous ones. I'm practical, Vera replied, keeping her voice neutral. Fighting serves no purpose. Indeed. Your intelligence on the Luna Station defenses has been most valuable. False intelligence, carefully crafted by Nash's team, would lead them to waste resources on useless ventures. But Vera had discovered something far more important. Corvathi were planning an invasion. Tributes were just the first phase, gathering intelligence for a massive strike. That night, she activated the emergency signal hidden in her tooth, a microscopic transmitter Nash had insisted on. One burst, undetectable, carrying everything she'd learned. The response came faster than expected. Alarms shrieked through the ship.
Ice.
Theron burst into her quarters, his eyes spinning in agitation. What have you done? Nothing, she lied, but he grabbed her arm, dragging her to the bridge. Outside the viewports, human ships were emerging from jump space. Not just a few. Dozens. The entire Fifth Fleet, with Marcus's Station 7 as the command vessel. Theron, Marcus's voice came through the communications. By order of the Colonial Union, you're under arrest for conspiracy, human trafficking, and espionage. This is an act of war, Theron snarled. No, another voice joined. Senator Blackwood. Vera's father. This is justice. My daughter's intelligence has exposed your entire operation. The Colonial Union has frozen all Corvathi assets and expelled your diplomats. Vera felt sick hearing his voice, knowing he was trying to play the hero now. But it didn't matter. What mattered was stopping the Corvathi. You planned this. Theron turned to her, his grip tightening. We all did, she said, dropping the pretense. Every false piece of intelligence, every moment of supposed submission, you knew what you were planning. Theron raised his hand to strike her, but the ship shuddered. boarding pods, attaching to the hull. Release her, ambassador. Marcus's voice was deadly calm, or we will take her. The bridge doors exploded inward. Human Marines poured through, weapons raised. Behind them came Marcus himself, no longer the station captain, but the soldier he'd once been. Theron pulled Vera against him, a blade at her throat. One more step and she dies. Then you die a second later, Marcus said, his rifle never wavering. Your entire species gets blamed for murdering a human diplomat during a legal arrest. Is she worth that? For 10 seconds, nobody moved. Then Theron laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You humans, always willing to sacrifice for each other. It's your weakness. No, Vera said, then drove her elbow into his chest, twisting away from the blade. It's our strength. Marcus's shot caught Theron in the shoulder, spinning him away. Marines moved in, restraining him and the other Corvathi on the bridge. Marcus crossed to Vera, checking her for injuries. You okay? Better now. She touched the monitor at the base of her skull. Can we get this thing out? Nash has a medical team standing by. He paused, then pulled her into an embrace. 3 weeks. 3 weeks of not knowing if you were safe. I was never safe, she said against his shoulder. But I was never alone either. I knew you'd come. The operation was over. 17 humans were freed from Corvathi control. The invasion plans were exposed and prevented. The trade agreement was voided, and new laws were passed protecting humans. From being traded as tribute, Senator Blackwood resigned in disgrace when his full involvement was revealed. Vera testified against him, her words carrying the weight of personal betrayal and political necessity. 6 months later, she stood in Marcus's quarters on Station 7, looking out at the stars. She wore her own clothes now, chosen by her, representing no one but herself. Any regrets, Marcus asked, joining her at the window. About my father? About the Corvathi? No. She turned to face him. About taking 3 weeks to gather intelligence when I could have ended it sooner. Maybe. You saved 17 people and prevented a war. I'd say that was worth 3 weeks. She smiled. Commander Nash offered me a position in intelligence. Said I have a natural talent for it. You going to take it? I haven't decided yet. She moved closer to him. Someone once told me that I always have a choice. I can stay or leave. Smart man, Marcus said. What did you decide? To stay, she said, and kissed him. Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to human struggles. But on Station 7, to people who had found each other through an accident of bureaucracy and an act of defiance stood together. Proof that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its weapons or its intelligence, but its refusal to accept that anyone was property to be traded. The woman who had been delivered as a gift had become something far more powerful, a free human who chose her own fate. And the man who had refused to return her had gained something he never expected. A partner who understood that sometimes the greatest act of love was simply saying no. To those who would claim ownership over another soul, their story would be told in whispers through human space, a reminder that one person standing up to injustice could change everything. The Corvathi learned that humans were not commodities. The colonial union learned that corruption carried consequences. And Vera and Marcus learned that sometimes fate's mistakes were actually its greatest gifts. The war that had been prevented would be remembered not for the battles that weren't fought, but for the courage of a woman who walked into enemy hands. With a false surrender and the determination of a man who refused to let her go, together they had rewritten the rules of human-alien relations, one choice at a time.